Is there anybody out there?
The lights
we
in the
don't
night
have a
sky.
dog, so that's okay.
Sky watchers. We're watching. We're watching.
Did you see that?
That's all.
Here on EngageLife.fm.
Welcome to Sky Watchers. This is your host, Debra Jayne East, and we're watching the North Carolina skies and skies all over the world. I'm very excited to have a special guest tonight. His name is Jeff Becker, and he is the author of Paths to Contact. Jeff is a computer programmer. He used to work in the U.S. Navy. He was a veteran who trained in and also taught at nuclear power plant operations. He has a master's degree in computer science, and he worked on artificial intelligence projects and robotics for the International Space Station. Thank you, Jeff. I so appreciate you being with us on Skywatchers this evening. How are you?
I'm great, and thanks for having me on your show. It's great to talk to another working group organizer.
Oh, I'm so happy. I read your book a few months ago, and the first thing I'd like to ask you is, how did you get started in ET contact?
Well, it's kind of a long story, but I'll try to simplify. I ran into Dr. Greer's Disclosure Project videos, and I found them very compelling, but I'm not the kind of person that likes to operate on belief. And when I discovered that Dr. Greer runs another program called CSETI, where he claims to introduce you to ETs and help you become an ambassador to the universe, I said, okay, I'm going to try that out. And if it's for real, great, and if it's not, well, I'll move on. And so I went to CSETI training in, it was late in the year in 2008, I believe. And then it was pretty amazing. The first night we were out, fairly early on, there was a craft that showed up, and it just made flashes in a very random pattern in one area of the sky, just bouncing around, bigger, smaller, random intervals. It wasn't possible for it to be airplane, satellite, or anything like that at all. And so I was thrilled, and the rest of the week there were sightings every night for a long time. Mostly they were ships that would flash repeatedly at various intervals, sometimes moving, sometimes not moving, just any combination you can think of.
Wow, that had to be pretty exciting. How could you tell that they weren't satellites or meteors or things like that?
Well, satellites move in a constant arc across the sky at a constant speed. And some will change brightness as they rotate, but it's always at a constant period. And some of them were stationary, some were moving and flashing at odd intervals. They were just doing various things, so it was clear they weren't satellites, especially the first one, which was just bouncing around all over the place.
Wow. So tell me, after you had this experience, I can imagine that was pretty exciting, to say the least, that you could see these things. So is that what inspired you to write your book, Paths to Contact?
Not right away. I formed a working group the next spring in 2009, and in between and on my own, in between working group gatherings and on my own, I had all kinds of other sightings. And I describe a lot of those in the book, but what really sort of blew me away and was probably set me up for deciding to do the book was the Star Knowledge Conference in November of 2011, the 11-11-11 conference, where I met a person who was not from this planet, but living as a human being. And I really can't go into all the details that made me believe she was who she said she was, but it's sort of, it got me very motivated to try and work towards deeper levels of contact. But also, the idea for the book just sort of hit me one day. It's like, I've been thinking about it kind of for a long time. In fact, since the first training, I've been thinking, well, it would be nice if the working groups out there had their own book where they told their story from the more personal point of view. And it just hit me at that time. I was so energized that I just decided to ask if there were people who would be willing to tell their stories using their real names, and not for any profit. So the whole idea was that we were kind of sticking our necks out, telling our stories, and we're not going to benefit from it financially, and just to give the whole thing more credibility. And wow. I was really pleased at the number of people that came forward and were willing to contribute.
Well, Jeff, you just blew me away. I hope that people were listening and heard you say that this was someone not of this world. That in its fact is a big revelation, and I can see why that would inspire you to further your studies and to investigate more. One thing I was impressed is the people that are in Paths to Contact are computer programmers, pilots, engineers, doctors, all kinds of people, and they aren't afraid to, let their names be known. Did that surprise you that so many people would be willing to come out and say, hey, I've had an experience?
Yeah, I was just really pleased with that, and I was really pleased once all the stories were together at the mix and how well the different stories fit together with people from different walks of life and really kind of different points of view about the whole thing. And actually different ways of achieving their first contacts or achieving ongoing contacts. So that's why it's Paths to Contact instead of Path to Contact, because there are many different ways that people end up having ET contact. One of them, he just really, really, really wanted to see a UFO. He had never had any training, never been with a group, and he just really wanted to see something. And on a drive through the mountains, he saw a craft in daylight next to a cloud. It just happened. And that really illustrates the fundamental aspect of achieving contact, which is pure and strong intent.
Yes. Well, could you explain a little bit better what CE5 means? Because everybody has heard of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the movie by Steven Spielberg. What does contact of the fifth kind exactly mean?
CE5 was coined by Dr. Stephen Greer, and basically it means human-initiated contact. So instead of just walking around out into the stars and having something happen, you're actively asking the ETs to show up and interact with you in some way that's safe for them and safe for you, and in the spirit of universal peace. So, and there are various ways in which contact can happen. One is simply visual. Others are tactile, sense, touches. There's really quite a range. And one of the authors in the book who runs contact expeditions, he has kind of a whole list of different ways of achieving contact. And his name is, where'd he go? Todd Michael.
That was one of my favorite chapters, by the way.
Yeah. So of course, he writes about having a face-to-face contact with a being who pretty much appeared in his room. So I thought that was really quite interesting.
It was, and he also wrote about the secrecy that that people have went to hide the fact that we have been visited and there has been contact. Did any of those things he mentioned surprise you?
Not especially, since I've been reading up on all of that sort of thing before, and Dr. Greer at his trainings goes into the secrecy aspects in quite a bit of detail. And then in the Navy, I was working on a classified project. They're not deep secret, but anything nuclear is classified. And so you get a notion of what goes into keeping things secret, at least at the low levels. But at the higher levels, they go to a lot more trouble to keep things secret. But the reason behind it is probably not what a lot of people think. The reason behind the secrecy, at least as far as I understand it, is that once people, and in particular scientists, know that these ET craft can get here, they can maneuver silently without using rockets, then it opens up a whole new realm of physics. And once you figure out the physics of how those things operate, the range of products, and in particular ways of generating energy, changes drastically. And part of that is we no longer need fossil fuels. And that's the multi-trillion-dollar problem that drives UFO secrecy. The people that are making all the money off of fossil fuels don't want to change.
Yes, it's certainly a big money-making thing, and so I can see why that would make people, hesitate for the information for new technology to be discovered or to be outed. Could you tell us about what's going to be going on in Roswell, New Mexico? I understand that Path to Contact is going to be having a conference there. Tell us all about that and who's going to be there.
Paula Shirley is one of the authors of the book, has a building in Roswell, New Mexico, and she wants to use that space to educate people on the peaceful intentions of the ET and how to make contact. And so this is the first conference she's done, and she decided to get together a bunch of the people who contributed to Path to Contact, and we all want to meet each other because a lot of us haven't met in person. And we're going to put on what I think will be a really great show. It will be both presentations. We'll talk about our experiences. We'll talk about how to make contact. There will be people talking about meditation techniques and things like that. And then we'll be spending the night under the stars and trying to see what we can see. And hopefully some really interesting things will happen under the stars, too. And that will be April 25th, 26th, and 27th, and we hope a lot of people can make it out there for that conference. It's not a big space, so it'll be a limited number of people that can come. So,
how did they pre-register for that conference?
The website is stardustconferences.com, and you can find that directly, or you can go to my website, which is pathstocontact.org, and there's a link on the front page to Stardust Conferences.
And I also did put that on Skywatcher Radio Show Facebook page, all that contact information too, if anybody wants to go there, and I also put your links. Would you encourage people, even though they may feel like they will get ridiculed or made fun of, do you encourage people to report sightings?
I encourage them to share what they've seen with the people around them. Reporting them to the national organizations is fine, but it's a lot more effective to work at a personal level. It's kind of one person at a time that gets influenced to change their point of view, and it can be a slow process. And so, a book like Path to Contact helps because a lot of people can read it, but what really changes people's minds is more at a personal level, and in fact, seeing for yourself is really one of the most important things you can do. So if you can get with a group that goes out and does CE5s, and come to the conference and learn about it that way. Of course, CSETI teaches how to do that. But seeing for yourself is really it changes people's lives. It's changed my life. It's